Hey guys, it's Forsaken Reality here with the third part to the Squid Games tutorial series. In this one we're going to be setting up the glass bridge game, so basically there's going to be two panes of glass that are going to be spawning, and one's going to be a static mesh and one's going to be destructible, so basically you'll fall through one and one you'll be able to land on. And just to showcase that, see, it spawns all the glass in and it randomly generates it, so you can't tell which one's going to be static or which one's going to be destructible. And that one was clearly destructible. And I'm just going to start it again just so I can try to get you show you a static mesh. And there we landed on a static mesh, and what that means, that one over there is destructible. And I had bad luck in this game clearly. So that's how this is going to work. And the ragdoll is also going to be replicated, and everything is in this level is also going to be replicated, so we're going to be able to see things happening on other clients, and this physics simulation will also work for the red light, green light. We'll get into finishing up the replication for the rotation of the head and stuff into a later on video, but I decided to just set up a physics replication here since it's one of the more mandatory games, since you need more players to play this one basically. So without further ado, we will get into setting this up. So the first thing I'm actually going to do, like usual, is grab my test copy and pull it over here out of the way. And I'm actually going to fix a collision or a issue that for the AI when they enter the endgame volume over here that a few people have mentioned. So you want to go into your volumes and your endgame volume. And in here, we're just going to simply drag out of the complete game right here, cast to your AI class, which would be named running AI. And the object is going to be the other actor right here. And we need to go to our AI. Oh, we actually have the correct variable created there. And we're going to set that the AI is in the winning zone. And that should fix your issues with having your AI die while they're in the finish zone or the winning zone. So we can just close out of that, close out of the AI. And now I'm just going to collect up a few sounds. I already have them downloaded, but I went back to this Voicey network website and found a few glass smashing sounds, and I'll leave a link in the description with the glass break already searched. But all I did was search glass break, and I got this one, and this one right here. Or actually, I got this one down here for the glass to do. So you can see it's a shorter sound effect, and the footstep on glass for when we land on the ones that aren't going to smash. And so you can just download those, and then we want to go to a converter. I'll leave a link in the description to this as well, which we've used before. And we will just add the files in and convert them to wave. And then once those are done, we can import them into our project. I'm just going to go to my sounds, go to my wave folder, and I'm just going to open my downloads folder because that's where they are. I'm just going to drag in my sounds. my two sounds. Just gonna rename them so I know what they are. Smash glass. Oops. That the smash glass and the footstep glass sounds. Now we are going to start setting up our new map. So we're going to go into our maps folder, right click, create a level. We're going to call this one glass bridge. You can rename this to red light, green light, or whatever you want. And we have our glass bridge map created. And I'm just going to use some geometry to create the level right here. First, I'm going to bring in my, just going to delete that. First, I'm going to bring in my lights. So I need a directional light, a skylight, and a sky sphere. I just set using a sky sphere because it's easier to set up than the atmosphere. Go into details, set the directional light. Now we're going to geometry, and I'll just pull out a box here. Bring that down. And I'm just going to set the X to 10,000, Y to 10,000. That gives me a decently sized little landscape that I can use. And so you can just stay at 200. And I'm just going to set up a little actual map here to showcase things. I'm just going to bring in a staircase. And the sizes I used on that just for temporary. 44, 29. You can adjust this to really whatever you want if you're going to use these. You can always get your own stairs as well. And I'm just going to get a cube platform up there. And then we have a little platform at the top of our stairs. I'm just going to stretch out the X on it. And I'm just going to grab this one, put it on a rotation, hold Alt, and rotate it to 90, and then you let go and it will create a second one. Your mouse button to move around here. And I'm just gonna make the back wall. Grab this platform. Hold Alt and drag out of it and it'll create a second one. Quickly just do that. And we have little area that we can set up our bridge and do some testing. If you want to get rid of this preview lighting, I believe you can just come into here. And I guess we just need to rebuild it. That would actually fix it rather than doing that. So I'm just going to build my lighting quickly. Pause that. And now we have our lighting built and our test level set up. I'm just going to go my directional light. Set that to 3 so it ain't so crazy. And from here we can begin setting up our floor tiles. But first I'm going to just duplicate this floor material. Make a black floor. I'm just going to hold one and click, and that's going to give me a constant, and I'm going to put this in the roughness, set roughness to 1, so it's a flat color. Save that. I'm just going to click the surface here and set the black floor. And that should be good enough for there. I guess I can set it over here too. I have our black room with our floor tiles. And I'm just going to search the cube material. Set it on both of these. Because we're using the box brushes, we can paint different sides. We can just get the top color if we wanted it. So that's our little level setup. And now we can get into actually creating some blueprints. So the first thing we're going to do here is go into our meshes. I'm just going to create a new folder called glass floor. And the way I'm going to get a glass floor is I'm going to search for a plane. Just drag it into the world. And I'm going to right click it and convert plane to static mesh. Game meshes glass floor. SM underscore. And then we have our glass floor piece. We can just delete this out of the world. Now you'll notice that you'll have this when you pull it in. And we are also going to need to create a glass material. So I'm just going to duplicate this one. You can duplicate any of them. And we'll open up this. And the way you want to set up a glass material is it needs to be, you need to use the opacity, but you notice that it's ticked off, so we can easily get that by going into translucent here. And now we have opacity, which we can set here. Hold one and click if you didn't have this constant. And we can set this value to, I'm going to set it to 0.25. You'll notice that it's a lot more transparent. We'll set the color. We'll go into the blue and right up here. Gives it a more glass-like color. We can save that. You can actually make it a two-sided material so that when we put it on a plane, we can see it from the bottom as well. Because normally you look right through a plane. I'll show you an example right here. If you look at it from the top, it's there, but if you look at it from the bottom, you can't see anything. But if we put our glass material on that, you want to open up the mesh you made so it sets it for every glass block we put in. So search for glass. And because we set it to a double-sided material, we should be able to see it from the bottom like that. Save that. And you can see it from both sides. There's a lot of glow on this material. Let's just do with the level defaults. I'm just gonna pause and see if I can adjust some lighting here. Okay, so we're just gonna set up a post-process volume. So you search post up here in the place actors. You'll get this. And you want to scroll, click on it in the details, go down to exposure, minimum, maximum, set those to 1, and scroll down to infinite, extend the bounds. And we have our mesh right here. I'm just going to delete that because we don't need that in the world. We're going to be creating a blueprint to spawn that in. We also go to our directional light, and I just set that to 10 again. So it's a little brighter, because you'll notice if you set it to 3, it's going to be darker. So now we have that set up. We have our glass floor piece set up. We want to right click on our glass floor piece. Or actually, we're going to need to enable Apex Destruction, which is a plugin. So you want to go to search Apex, enable, and restart your engine, save everything if there's something to save. The project should load back up. And I'm just going to go back to my glass bridge map and open up the previous assets that I had. Which I can actually just close these out. I don't really need any of those open. My meshes, glass floor, right click, and you'll know you can create, notice you can create destructible mesh. So you want to create your destructible mesh. Come into it right here, and we can see it from both sides. Pane of glass, so that's perfect. And if you click fracture, you'll notice that it broke it into pieces, and you can explode it to see exactly how many fractured pieces you're going to have. I'm going to set this to 50 for your cell count, and then click the fracture, and it'll add more. And you want to enable impact damage, so then when a player lands on it, it will break the mesh. So now we have our destructible mesh and our glass floor mesh. And just to show you this in the world, we're going to resize it in our blueprint, so don't worry about the scale too much right now. I'm just going to show, but it should work when I land on it here. Oh, and you'll notice that when you start the game, movement is disabled. That's because in the character, we have our movement disabled for the other game mode. To fix that, I'm going to actually right click and create a data folder. And I'm going to create an enum, which stands for enumeration, e_game types. And in here, I'm just going to make the name for every single game. But I'm also going to have a none. So there's 6 games, I believe. Red, light, green, light. I don't know what the cookie one is, so I'm just going to call it cookie cutter. If anybody has any ideas on how they could create that by using drawing, or have any experience with drawing other than, and also collision with the mouse and stuff like that, please leave a message. That could be useful. I have a method that I will show to do it, but it would be a lot better and a lot nicer if we used drawing with a pencil that had used some sort of collision. I haven't put too much work into it, into that specific area, so I don't have the know-how at the moment, at least. Now I'm just going to finish setting up all these names. And the actual Squid Game. Save. So now we have our game types enum created. And go to our character and our third person character. Create a variable called e_game type. You know, click the drop down here for your variable type and get your game types enum, compile and save. And you'll notice you'll have access to all of these in here. So you'll notice that when you begin play, you disable movement, and it's the doll that actually re-enables your movement in the doll blueprint. So in order to fix this, we can grab our enum, create a switch, and now you'll notice you'll have outputs for all of your game modes. So we can drop this down here. And we're going to set up a lobby system that will set the game mode when you're depending on the world you go into. But for now, we're just going to have this set up like this. So let's set the red light, green light. We'll go in here. And we're just going to default this value to the glass bridge. Or I guess we can leave it at none for now. And if you go into your open level blueprint, you can cast to third person character. Player character. And from here we can get our enum, which will be game type. And we'll just set that. And while we're in the glass bridge blueprint, we will set that to glass bridge. And we can do the same thing for our other level blueprint. So we can just go into here for our red light, green light blueprints, open level blueprint, in play, cast third person character, player character, game type, set, and this is going to be red light, green light. And the way this works is the level loads up before your character, so it should set things properly to the correct one. And yeah, it's originally set to none, but because the level loads up and then the character loads the level, sets red light. And then because it's when the character loads, because it's set the red light, our movement's disabled. But anything else, it's not doing anything. And we can just drag it up here. Just so we have a note, you have no game mode set in the player. You have no game mode set. So basically, if you don't have a game mode set, it will print the string there, so you'll know to come and set a game mode in your player blueprint. I don't know why the comment went down there, but comment set game mode or game type. And we can go back over here. Set game type. So that's that done, and now we notice when we come in here, our movements and everything has been working, and this mesh should be a destructible when we land on it. But all that's happening is it's destroying the mesh. We haven't set up anything for the actual blueprint yet. So now we're going to get into that. Well, first thing we're going to want to do is go to our blueprints folder. And I'm going to create a new folder called glass floor. Right click, blueprint class, actor, BP underscore glass floor. And we're going to open this up. So the first thing we're going to do in here is we're going to tick replicates, make sure your solve factor selected, and tick on that so that it's replicated. And we're going to add a few meshes. So we're going to add a static mesh. And that'll be the left static mesh. And then we will create another one. We'll look for Destructible, and you'll get this Destructible component. Left Destructible mesh. And then we'll just select two of these and duplicate them. And we'll just name this one right static mesh. And right destructible mesh. Compile and save. And we're also going to need some collision, but we're also going to want to, I'm going to create the collision first, I guess. Collision. Left box collision, and just make sure they're all separated like this. And for the box collisions, I'm just going to set the sizes to 3.5, 3.5, and 0.6. And I'm going to copy the scaling, paste it over here. And I'm going to take the right collision box and I'm going to move it to the left here. So now my my boxes are separated. I'm actually going to click my box, all my right ones, right box, right destructible. I'm holding control while I'm clicking, and right static mesh. And I'm just going to move them over here so that they're all together. And I have my left ones here. And I'm going to set the sizes on these two. 2 and 2. Right static mesh. 2, 2. Same thing for the destructible meshes. And just for reference, when you spawn them in, that's the size of them. The destructible mesh doesn't spawn until you click simulate, but you don't want to have these left here. We can just delete those. You'll see that the collision goes around the mesh slightly, so it's slightly bigger than the mesh itself. And we just get rid of that floor mesh. Okay, so now we have that set up. We can delete this. Won't need it. First thing we're going to do is set up a random variable for determining if it's going to be a static mesh or a destructible mesh. So to do that, we're going to right click, create a custom event, and this is going to be a server random event, and it's going to be random chance. We're going to set this on server and reliable. We're going to create a variable called random chance. Set that. We're going to set that to rep notify. And set this here. So basically every time this variable runs, whatever's inside this rep notify will run as well. That's where we're going to be spawning our meshes. So every time it runs a random chance, it will spawn a mesh and it will notify other clients that the mesh is spawned, basically. And the reason we're doing it on the server is because we only want this integer to be spawned once, and we can reuse the server's variable for all the clients. We don't want it to roll for when the server spawns and then each client player spawns. It'll re-roll it and give you a different number. So this will only do it once on the server, and that variable will be used for, the entire random chance for all players. So they're always the same. So we have our random chance here. I'm going to leave that bubble actually on. And from the event be in play, we will wait until we set everything up first. So from here, I'm going to create another event called spawn static, or custom event, and spawn static mesh. And another one. So we have our spawn a static mesh and spawn destructible mesh. And the way this is going to work is we're going to get our left static mesh. Set static mesh and make sure you're using this function right here. And we're going to set this to the floor. And for this one, we're going to get the left destructible mesh. And we're going to set destructible mesh. Make sure you get the function. And you only have one, so you should just select your floor there. And from here, we're going to create a variable. This is saying, I'm going to say destructible floor left. So basically, if the random chance comes through and spawns through here, decides to spawn a destructible mesh for our left one, then we'll set that it spawned a destructible mesh. And then for both of these, we will drag into a branch that's checking if a destructible mesh was spawned on the left. So if it happens to spawn the static mesh first off, it will run through here. And if there hasn't been a destructible mesh spawned already, then we'll run through false and spawn a destructible mesh. But if it comes through and this is ticked, so it means we're spawning a destructible mesh, this will be true. So the next mesh we'd want to spawn is a static mesh. That'll be for the right side. So we want to get our right side static mesh. Set static mesh. And we're going to set that to the floor. So now the right static mesh, if this variable is true, means we already have a destructible spawned. And we're going to spawn a static one now, but if it's false, means it came through this way and I already spawned a static. So we're going to want to get our right destructible mesh and set destructible mesh to our destructible mesh. And we're going to create another variable called destructible floor right. And we're going to set this here. So basically, when it runs through here, it's not setting this variable, so it's not on the left. So it's false. Sets a destructible mesh. And it will set the destructible mesh here. And that now that it's not on the left side, so you want to set that it's on the right side. And this will be used for our collision, determine if we're in the left or right collision and if our mesh is in the same collision with us. So that will be our spawn static mesh event finished. So that will spawn static or destructible meshes. And the way we're actually going to use this is if, you'll notice that when you made this a rep notify that you created a function over here. So when the server chance runs, we will want to check if the random chance is greater than a certain value, or greater than or equal to, so it will make more sense to whatever value we put in. So if our random chance is greater than or equal to 5, then we will spawn a static mesh. You can change up these values as much as you want. But the way I have it, so it's set to 10, so half of that would be 5 equal. 0 counts as well, so somewhere in the middle is 5. And so it'll split it up, and we want to spawn destructible mesh. So basically, the way we're going to run this is using our begin play server random chance. So basically, when each tile is created, it will run through this. It will get a random variable from 1 to 10, and it will then notify all clients of that variable, and then it will check to see if it is greater than 5, and then it will spawn a static mesh and spawn a destructible mesh. And because we're running it on the server, it's only rolled once on the server, but the clients can also access that variable that was rolled. And then we will spawn and then we'll run through here and spawn either a static mesh and then a destructible, or a destructible and then a static. So that should be our spawning finished. Just gonna do a little test. You can delete this. And if you notice your rotation is off, we can just rotate it to this side, 90, because this one's our left side. But it doesn't really matter too much. And we don't have collision set up, so we're going to want to set up a collision on our meshes. So we want to go to our class mesh, come into here, and you'll notice if you click your simple collision, nothing shows up. So you want to go to collision, add simple box collision, and it will add just a collision line right around the mesh like that. And now we can click play. I'm just going to get a player start. Just here you can design your own level however you want it. I just set up a quick prototyping map. Hold alt and drag. Just have 2 little start points. So one of these is spawning as a static mesh and one is spawning as a destructible, and I just jumped right over it. And there we go, that one's the destructible. Just gonna run up, and this one should spawn as a static mesh. And I should be able to land on it. Yep. And there we have 1 destructible and 1 static. And depending on the roll, it can actually spawn them on either side. Let's see if I can get that created there. So static's on that side. Missed it. I'll get her. There we go. Now we have the static mesh on this side, and now the destructible should be on that side. Yep. So that's everything working the way we want it to be. It's rolling a random number and giving us a random mesh. Compile, comment. Let's see in play. Compile and save that. And I think I'm going to stop this video here because it's gotten pretty long. But in the next one, we'll deal with our collision. So when we enter our collision, we'll simulate physics, and that will kill our player. And we'll also deal with setting up the glass sounds, and I'll set up the replicated simulate physics for our both games, basically, because you'll be able to reuse the variable in other ones. This is what we have now. We should be able to spawn in our meshes, but the character isn't dying. It's just giving us random bridge variables, and we can just create a bridge. Right now we can jump across the bridge, and if we can get it right, if you don't have the bad luck like I have, then you'll be able to jump across the bridge. And we'll finish setting that up in the next one. If you found this video helpful and you want to see more, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss out on any new tutorial uploads. You'll get notified basically when new uploads happen. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, feel free to leave those in the comment section below, or join my Discord Discord server using the link in the description. Thanks, and I'll see you all in the next one.